Divine and royal greetings, family. Shayola Benta back again with another Build Through Book Club with our very own coach, Shantae Wilkerson. And today we'll be discussing men and the parent womb. So look, y'all, I went ahead and pressed the wrong button because that's just how things happen for a sister. That, of course, is our old theme music, but we like the new one. So I'm going to go ahead and play that too. So y'all just vibe out and, watch this new content that we have. So welcome back, and thanks for going through that whole little journey with us. When I pressed the button, I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not the right one. That's not the right one. But here we are celebrating a month of men's health. Welcome, Coach Latoya, in the house with us. And the rest of the month, we're really just going to be looking at men's health in different ways from our perspective. Clearly, we are not men, but we thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to really just give them, their focus or their flashlight, if you will. So Coach Shantae actually came up with this particular topic, men and the parent wound. Right? First, we were like, well, maybe it's mom, maybe it's dad. It's just like, you know what? Maybe it's the whole pair. So, Coach Shantae, share with us why you decided to go with this topic this week and next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was really a joint effort. Shout out Coach Lorraine. She's actually putting together a coaching program to help women specifically, but of course it resonates for men too, about how to heal from the mother wound and things that can be triggered in your life when you have these traumas and things from your mom that you don't address. And when it comes to people, we can specifically pinpoint, okay, these traumas come from issues your mom had, these issues come from things your dad did. Excuse me, let me step back because I put the whole thing together at one time. So it's easy to pinpoint the issues that mothers bring to the table, but we don't really think about in a healthy way the ways that men impact their children's lives. There's this really unhealthy narrative that men don't know how to be fathers, or men can't be fathers, or men are absent fathers. And that's just not the case across the board. A lot of times men are present within their trauma and they have children and they parent their children from that trauma. And so when I thought about men's health, I really thought about specifically the relationships that I've had with men and the way that their relationships with their fathers informed and their mothers informed the way they interacted in the relationship with me, as well as the way that my son, dealing with his father wounds and his mother wounds, is interacting with the world around him.
That's very interesting. As you were speaking, I was thinking about past relationships and just partners that I have had and their father wounds. What stuck out in my mind was heavy narcissism, and how that narcissism not only was a part of the nature, but it was also a part of the nurture. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult to heal from a narcissistic being, whether it was a parent or a lover or what have you. So, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that boys oftentimes do have these wounds, and it really does dictate how they maneuver as adults, adulting, whether they're in relationships or, working or what have you. Coach
Mhm.
Latoya, what say you as it relates to men and specifically the father wound?
Yes, I definitely agree with what both of y'all said as far as with the father wound. Um, for when I look at it personally, just of observation of how I've in prior relationships, or even just looking at my own father figures, and how in some ways they have definitely overcome a lot. I when
Mm.
you hear people's stories and you're like, wow, well, I had no clue that you experienced that, and how you have actually broken a lot of generational pathologies. So you have that aspect, but then you have those things of there are certain things that haven't been explored or discovered, and it's like how it passed on to your children in certain ways, and how in
Mhm.
some ways, I know for me, how you attract a similar mate or whatnot. So it makes me strive to seek to understand men a little better. Me
Mhm.
personally, I
Mhm.
feel like it's definitely a challenge, especially coming, out of a long-term situation. It's just making me want to seek to understand men a little bit more and have more compassion and more understanding.
Mhm.
I feel like I do, but it's just even more, even with the challenges that come with day to day engaging with certain people.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. You know, um, they say men oftentimes aren't very communicative with feelings and emotions, and they may have grown up, whether they had both parents or none parent or just one, tough up, no crying, no this, no that. And I know that as the woman or the feminine aspect, we desire, I think, to encourage, men to be communicative and all the things. But do you think that and I don't know, maybe we should have had a man on maybe a man will come in. Men are, if you're listening and watching this live, thank you all that are seeing this live. Definitely chime in because we would like to hear from you. But that notion that they shouldn't really show emotion, or they shouldn't cry, or they got to man up. What kind of reverse at effect, if you will, that will have on them later on in life? Does it close them off to being able to express the way that they feel? Do they even know how to express the way that they feel? Would they even be more inclined, what, maybe I do have some things going on and I'll seek professional help? Because it's getting better in terms of mental health being very taboo, within our community. But I think people are starting to embrace it more because there are some things that's going on. So I guess my question is, do you think, either one of you, encouraging the boys not to cry, not to show this emotion has a negative impact on them when they reach adulthood or even teenage years.
Yes.
And Coach Shante, Coach Latoya, I know that you're about to answer, but Coach Shante
You were
has
cut a little bit on my end, so I didn't hear the end of the question.
As it relates to telling boys, like, suck it up, man up, no crying, not really showing that emotion. Do you feel that that has an adverse effect on them as they grow into their teenage years and then into their adulthood? And Coach Latoya was about to answer. And then I was thinking, you have a son, so I would like to hear from you too. But Coach Latoya, what were you going to say?
Yes, I would say, of course, absolutely, that has a major impact. But as you were talking before you asked the question, I was just thinking about how that's why it's so important for both girls and boys to be taught the divine masculine and the divine feminine within them, so that we know is how to express it properly. Because if they were in tune with their divine feminine, then they will be able to express themselves more clearly. That's the part, more expressive, more feeling the feelings and sitting in it, and I know that this is about the men, but I feel like overall there's just an issue with a lot of people are taught to not be in tune with their emotions and feelings based upon how they were raised, going even that deep into thinking about just how we are, like the type of attachments that we have to our parents, like whether it's the secure attachment, whether it's the avoidant or the anxious, there's different varieties, and how I was extremely mindful of that with my own daughter. But it's about men, but it's just in general, it's like it's an overall issue, like with the emotions part, with the expressing part, but with boys in particular, I think that it's really bad. It's really sad, it's forcing them to like suck it up or to not express their feelings or emotions. It's actually very highly intelligent to be able to sit with your feelings and your emotions and be able to express what your needs are, express when you're not comfortable, and understanding that there are different ranges of feelings and emotions, and it's okay to be angry and to be able to express it in a certain way. But there is so many layers to this, but I would definitely love to hear Coach Shantae's perspective, because she actually has a boy. I have a little brother who's 13 years younger than me, so in some ways I was able to observe it, but I would love to hear her perspective for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So, first and foremost, the answer to that question is a resounding yes. I've shared before, like my last relationship experience was definitely with a narcissist, and he had wounds from both his mother and his father and both sides of his family. Like he was just a cesspool of shenanigans. And I did not pay enough attention and take action before I allowed him to get like a really strong foothold into my life and into my son's life. And because of his toxic version of masculinity, it caused a lot of issues with my son. My son has always been very expressive. He's not one to hide how he feels about things. He's going to express. If he's sad about something, he's going to cry. If he's angry about something, his brows are going to be furrowed and he's going to be fuming. Like if he's happy about something, he's going to have a big cheesy grin. He is very, very much in tune with who he is as a person. I realized throughout the course of that relationship that little boys don't cry and you need to stop that and man up, and being forced to get everything right, not being able or allowed to make mistakes, not being met with any type of nourishing encouragement or redirection when he did get things wrong. Like all of those things added up to him like bottling up all of his emotions and not expressing what he was dealing with, and not feeling like he was important and not believing that he was special. Like all of these things came from being taught by the person who was the father figure in his life, that these are not things that little boys do. Recently, over the last, well, over the last almost 2 years now, we've really been working on getting ourselves grounded, working through and processing all of those different lessons that he was taught and unlearning those things, relearning the things that he needs to learn. Oh, and my mom is in the comments. Hey, Mom. On Facebook, she said it also causes harm when boys are not allowed to show affection. And that is the other piece of it, too. We really had to unlearn and relearn a lot of things because his love language is physical touch. He loves getting hugs. Like that is, he is going to be happy and excited about getting a hug. And one day I was just like, okay, Shante, because my love language is not physical touch. Like I'm not a physical touch person all the time. I like my peace and my solitude. So one day I said, you know what? I'm going to experiment with something. The next time he comes in here and asks me for a hug, I'm going to give him a hug and I'm not going to let go. I'm just going to keep hugging him until I just was like, we're going to just see what happens. So he comes in, he's like, hey, Mom, what you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just working on such and such. He was like, oh, okay, well, can I have a hug? I'm like, okay. I turned and faced him. I stood up and I gave him a hug. And I gave him a nice tight hug and I just held on to him. And he was like, okay, I'm sure my mom is done with his hug. So he let go and I kept holding on to him and I just hugged him. And so he wrapped his arms back around me. He's just soaking up this hug like it's the best thing in the world. So as he is turning around to walk out the room, I catch a glimpse of his face and his cheeks are in his temples because he is smiling so big because he got a really good hug and it just made his day. That is extremely important. Hugs, kisses, showing affection, telling people that you love them, understanding what emotions you're actually feeling. Those things are all extremely important for the development of a person. It's not important whether that person is male or female. It is important for the person that is being raised to be allowed to experience the full range of human emotions. So we recently, in our journey of unlearning and relearning and better expression and communication, found it's not gonna let me do it. Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna have to take my
Look, I was like, we could barely see you. Okay. Okay.
You can't really see it all that, but this is the feelings wheel. I just printed this one out in black and white. So essentially with the feelings wheel, you can take a look at it and you can kind of talk about what feelings you're actually experiencing. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm angry, I've been recently, whenever he's expressing anger, he's got a big attitude going on, I have him go get his feelings wheel because I've got copies of the feelings wheel all over the house. So he'll get his copy of his feelings wheel and I'll ask him a question. Okay, sit still. Look at your feelings wheel. You said you're angry. What else is it that you're feeling? So he'll look at the feelings wheel and he'll look at the angry section and he'll take it out a step further and he'll realize that he's feeling angry, but really he's just feeling annoyed because I wouldn't let him, watch One Piece for 12 hours straight or play the game or whatever the case is that he wanted to do. And I asked the next question, okay, is you being annoyed, or excuse me, is this the best way for you to express that you're feeling annoyed? And then he'll say, no, ma'am, it's not. Then the next question that I have for him is, if you were the person, sometimes this is the next question, if you were the person who was interacting with someone and they were behaving that way, how would that make you feel? And would you want to continue to be around them if they were doing those things? And he'll think about it and he'll answer the question and then we proceed from there. But just him learning how to pinpoint exactly what he's feeling and not categorize all bad feelings as anger and all positive feelings as happiness really helps him to learn to communicate, which is also going to make him a better communicator as he gets older, when he starts dating and interacting with young ladies. Because again, learning how to communicate your feelings is a person thing. And there are so many women in the world who complain about not being able to connect to their partner on that emotional level because their partners don't understand what they're actually feeling. They're either stoic and they don't show any emotions at all, or they're on the two extremes. They're either happy or they're angry. And there's no in between because they've not been allowed to develop the full range of human emotions. So I definitely support allowing little boys and little girls to fully express all of the emotions that they have. And for those of us who are raising children, for us to learn to express the full range of human emotions that we experience so that we can show by example what that looks like, so that what they do is not foreign to us, because that's really the root of that. Little boys don't cry. Suck it up. Because I don't know how to address what you're feeling right now. So you need to put that away because it's making me feel uncomfortable. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. That was excellent feedback. Just allowing boys and girls, but we're focusing on boys. So if you find us doing that and girls, it's a thing. But we're focusing on the boys. But just being allowed and able to fully express the way that you're feeling. But I love the fact that you said that it really is the adult too, raising the boy to really understand themselves so that they can create safe space for a young boy to be able to fully experience the wide range of human emotion. And then, Coach Latoya brought up a great point too, in that the divine feminine and masculine resides in all of us. So if we're able to, if we're allowed, because I've spoken to some men that they don't even want to hear divine feminine within them. Like, divine feminine, there's nothing feminine about me. And it's just like, not in that way, you know what I'm saying? And if they're able to connect with the feminine aspect of who they are, not in a sexual way, then it would be easier to express the way that we're feeling or they're feeling. So I think that, again, just overstanding, even the parents overstanding, the caregivers overstanding that there are two energies that dwell within us, and we have to be able to identify which one are we feeding right now. Like you said, you may have too much of a feminine thing going on, too much of a masculine thing going on. We want to bring harmony to that. I'm not going to even say balance, but a harmony. Same thing for women. We may be more of in our masculine space when we're out in the work world, career world, but at home it's more of a feminine. And I know that varies. That was just an example. But I think that it's so important for us to be able to acknowledge and develop both the feminine and aspect within us. I actually posted something like that, and I got so many comments, and primarily it was from men. Or are you saying that men are feminine? And it's just like, I'm talking about energy. I'm not talking about, the autonomy of a person. I'm talking about the energies that we carry within. So, let's talk a little bit about, let's say, women who may, let me rephrase that. Men who are attracted to women who coddle. Now, I was one of those who completely coddled, catered, anything you needed or want. I don't even want you to feel like you're about to feel you're uncomfortable. But where do you think it comes from when a man is attracted to women who coddle? And then maybe at another conversation, if we remember, we'll talk about women who feel the need to coddle. And then I'll veggie back with that question. I remember a friend asking me years ago, Do you think that your partner is responsible for giving you the love or loving you the way that your mother or your father didn't?
Mm.
So, however, whichever one you want to go with first. So, the whole coddling bit, where do we think the coddling comes from, or that attraction to coddling? And do we think that, or why do we, or do we think that, excuse me, I'm looking at something that caught my attention. Um, do we think that our partners should supply us with the love that we did not get from a parent? And this is speaking, let's say, from a man's perspective, even though we can't really do that because we're not men. But again, keeping the focus on the men. Whoever wants to answer that first.
Oh yes, that I remember. I think I remember you having the second question you asked about if it's
Mhm.
our mate's responsibility, because I remember making a post in regards to how I've had challenging relationships in general with people. Once I realized that it was not my responsibility to make sure that people were okay, because I have definitely been in situations where I have parented when adults when I did not need to be parenting adults. But I also recognize that, just to be transparent, I was a parentified child. I had to break it down with my therapist, and I understand that. And then I went a step further and took a quiz and saw that I was a fixer. So in that, it's like there's a balance. There's a value to wanting to be a support, but you have to be careful with that. So with that being said, I've had to learn have had to unlearn to focus the attention on me, and that is not my responsibility. But so it's no one's responsibility, but you have to parent yourself. That's really what the reality of. You have to parent yourself, and that may mean that you may need to get some support from a therapist or some. You have to sit down with yourself. It's a lifelong process, but it's no one's responsibility but yourself to make sure that you're okay. And once you're at a certain age, you have to see your parents as human. Like, that's just the reality, that they did the best that they could with what they have. And I understand, I know that may be triggering for some people who definitely have gone through some things that was not okay. But I'm talking about in the grand scheme of it, really, in order to grow, you have to see your parents as just as humans that did the best that they could, and that you are here to expand that and to do better. You're a better version of them. So that's how I look at it as far as that goes. And as far as the coddling, as far as the coddling the men that like women, to me it could be a variety of things, but I automatically think of extremes. I think of the man that maybe didn't have the mother in their life, so they expect that they seek the woman to do that for them. Or the other extreme of it, where their mother was a coddler or didn't hold them accountable for things, expect you to do the very same thing too. So, and they lean towards the women that do that or whatnot. So that's what I think of when I think of a man. There's something in them that is wanting to be mothered, and in that goes back to embracing the divine feminine in you, but also making amends with your mother in whatever way that you may need to. And I sometimes feel like men don't even consider the fact that they have trauma from their mothers because their mothers were there. Some of them, because their mothers was the only parent there, or they don't even think about that. I think that in some ways, the mothers and daughters tend to focus on that. But the men and their mothers, I feel like that one is.
Oh, she
Not
froze.
focus on
Okay,
the
there you are.
and mhm.
You froze for a hot second, sis.
Oh, I'm sorry. What part did not hear?
I heard, well, the last thing I
So
heard was,
just right at the end.
yeah, it was right at the end. It was right at the end. But you
Okay,
were just
well,
basically summing up. Well, the mothers are, even though the mothers are there,
mhm.
I think it's the last thing I heard. But I
Oh
think
yes,
we
the mothers. Oh yes, they may some of them may sweep it under the rug of the
Mhm.
impact that their mother may have had that was not necessarily horrible, but it's something that needs to be explored because it may be impacting their relationship with their current spouse or current mate.
That's real. So we only, we're at our 30-minute mark. And this is why we made it a two-part, because we knew that this will be, an in-depth conversation, and we didn't really touch on men, boys really needing their fathers or those father figures, and not necessarily, you know, but anywho, we'll come back next week and expound upon more of this conversation. Of course, we would like to hear from all of you out there. But we have, let's just take another minute. Coach Shantae, what would you like to close us out with?
I would just like to close out with my answer to the question about the coddling and the who's responsible for the nurture, because Coach Latoya pretty much summed it up, wrapped it up in a nice, pretty package. When it comes to men who seek out women who coddle, my literal experience, like the relationship that I talk about that was just horrible, no good. He was looking for that mothering, that nurturing from his partners, so much so that he only interacted with women with children. I think in the course of life, he may have interacted with one woman that didn't have children, and it was like a few months, and then he moved on, and she just wasn't the one, and so on and so forth. But he really was looking for that nurture that he didn't experience from his mother, from other women. He wanted to be nurtured. He wanted to be taken care of by the women in his life. And also, he wanted at the same time to be respected as a man. So there's two paradigms that don't go together, but that is what he was looking for. And it was firmly in his court to provide himself with that love and that nurture that he needed. And because of his relationship with his father and his relationship to masculinity, he never fully gathered and grasped how to be a loving, caring, compassionate parent for himself and still be a provider to balance the masculine and the feminine within him. And I don't know if to this day he's figured that part out or what it is that he's going on, but I do know when it comes to this thing called life, once you get old enough to make your own choices, it really is up to you to heal your parent wounds, whether you're aware in full of the ways that your parents impacted your life, or you're just bits and pieces gathering info about how your parents impacted your life. It really is in your court to address that, either through therapy or through doing your own sacred work. And I don't have the book in here, or through your own sacred work. You can get the Man Heal Thyself book written by Queen Afua, and you can take that perspective to kind of start your journey into understanding what type of man you are right now, and get to a space where you see the issues that you have and you start working towards them. Going to therapy is a really great option. Reaching out to men who do not have those particular issues, men who embody the type of man that you're striving to become. Surround yourself with those type of men, men who are going to hold you accountable with love, who are going to let you know when something is right or when something is wrong. Just give yourself the best opportunity to thrive and to excel in life by doing things differently than you're currently doing them, and see how much things change for you, even down to the types of partners that you find yourself attracted to, because they're all the way your parents interact with you informs everything. It's the foundation of who you are. And if it wasn't healthy and you don't address it, then you're going to keep building those sideways leaning walls, and you don't want to do that going forward for the long haul.
I'm just talking and then I got a flash. You're muted. Thank you so much, Coach Shantae, for all of that, because it definitely is relative. So again, we will be back next week, Monday, with part 2 of this conversation, focusing a little bit more on, men and their relationships with their moms and how that may play out from, the time that they're born in the womb, really, until their adulthood. If you are interested in a consultation as it relates to wellness or energy reading, as it relates to just where you are spiritually and physically, definitely check us out at the emeraldgreencollective.com. Please remember that before things manifest in the physical, they definitely happen in spirit first. And we try to help you catch those things before they manifest in a negative way, if you will, and definitely encourage, if it's positive, to keep moving in that direction. So until next week, Monday, we say peace, love, and wholeness. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you're seeing this as a replay, please drop replay in the comments, like, subscribe, and share. Peace, y'all.
And real quick,
Yes.
Friday, not Monday. We'll be back next week, Friday.
Oh, Monday. I don't know where I'm getting Monday from. You know what? I used to do another podcast on Monday. Friday, y'all. We'll be back Friday. See how she caught it. No, sis. We'll be back here on Friday. Next week, Friday. Every Friday at 2 p.m. You can catch us on Facebook and on YouTube. So, got it? I got it? We good. Peace, y'all.